We welcome you to the Learning Forward podcast, Season 10, Episode 17. I am Anvesha, your meet and greet podcast host at My Good School. Entrepreneurship is a leading world phenomenon. From when we were once told to follow others, today we can leave our own mark by collaborating, connecting, and creating. It is to discover our own joy and spread it beyond. In our podcast, we have Mrs. Swati Gauba. She is a digital marketing consultant at digital.com and has spent the better part of her career helping big corporates, SMEs, and startups with marketing and content strategies, ensuring the marketing dollar goes further. Swati also has experience of running her own fashion technology startup, hoppingo.com, where she was leading editorial, sales strategy, business development, strategic alliances, and partnerships. She's one of the top 8 women from South and Southeast Asia that participated in the Female Foundry program by Dentsu AG's network in Singapore in 2016. She's also a certified trainer and coach on Science of Happiness designed by Berkeley Institute of Wellbeing, California, and executed by Habitude India. She has specialized in happiness education for kids. She runs a program, Kidspreneurship, that trains kids to have an entrepreneurial mindset and growth mindset. We welcome you, ma'am. Would you like to speak a few words about your life, kidspreneurship, and your love for entrepreneurship, ma'am?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anvesha, for that lovely introduction. So my name is Swati, and like you mentioned that I was a digital marketing professional before I ventured into kidspreneurship, or rather, started kidspreneurship as a passion project back then. I think it all started because I was consulting a robotics and coding academy, and when I saw kids following step-by-step instructions and not really applying their mind or being able to think on their own self, I definitely thought that there was a gap. And being an IT engineer, I knew that coding skills are perhaps not transferable skills, but the ability to be able to think independently, critically, creatively is something that every child is going to use in their life. So inspired by this thought, I created a very short program which I was able to deliver. And once I saw that the kids were benefiting from the program, I think the journey started of creating this as a more holistic program, and I call this the entrepreneurial mindset program, because I do believe that while not everybody is going to become an entrepreneur, but I think everybody will be expected to think like one. So it's important that if people will be expected to think like an entrepreneur. In fact, it's not something which is in the future. Right now, also as we speak, a lot of employers expect their employees to think entrepreneurially. Sundar Pichai, who's Google's CEO, he very recently spoke to all his employees and he said, be more entrepreneurial. That's the message that he gave to his employees, which kind of underlines the importance of entrepreneurship, and not just entrepreneurship, but an entrepreneurial mindset. So yeah, that's how my journey started. Now Kidspreneurship, which focuses on entrepreneurial mindset program for young kids in the age group of 8 to 14. We focus a lot on creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, real world problem solving, and being able to apply your mind to come up with ideas. And it's a very well-rounded program with not just curriculum. Of course, curriculum is at the core of it, but I think it has a lot of other modalities, like how we help schools create physical spaces, which are called the maker spaces. So I think what inspired me, to your point, is when I saw young children developing skills for the future, which perhaps may not be as appropriate as as I mean, coding, again, it was being positioned as something which was very important. But while I understand technology skills are important, but it wasn't the only thing that they should be learning. So yeah, I think all of this led to the start of kidspreneurship, and this is why I feel very passionately about kids being exposed to an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes, ma'am. That was wonderful. Like to getting to know how it all started, which was wonderful. But you also mentioned how you came at the idea of kidspreneurship. But how did this begin? What was the start of your journey like? How did you convince parents to let children join this? And how did you convey this idea of entrepreneurship to children?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, because even now I feel that a lot of parents have a slightly, I would say, closed mindset towards something like this. I'm not saying all parents, but there are few parents, and there are still parents who are, perhaps they want their child to be more academically inclined.
Yes.
So I think when I started, I actually partnered with an education company, and I think they were the ones who kind of did the job, the marketing job for me, because I wasn't ready to take that up. Because I was focusing myself on creating the curriculum. So when they got me students, and I think it was I remember the first class when I started, there were about 4 or 5 students in the class,
Yes.
and it was a holiday camp. But then it was unheard of that in the same camp, next day there were 2 kids who got their siblings along, because one, they thought that they really enjoyed the whole process, and the parents were also very happy. When the kids went back home, they told the parents what they did during the camp, so the parents were also quite happy to send their the other child as well. So I think that was to me, I was quite happy to get that kind of feedback in the very beginning.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's how it all started, by partnering with somebody who already had students. And then I think in the journey, I've realized that I don't want to do the heavy lifting at this point, currently at the stage at which kidspreneurship is, in trying to convince the parents. Of course, we put out a lot of educational material for parents to know that why this is important, but there are enough and more parents in schools that understand the importance of this. And I think those, I categorize them as early adopters, and we're only focusing on early adopters. The converts, the people who kind of follow, or people who are not the early adopters, will adopt once they see the benefits of this, and once they see that how it transforms a child. So I think in terms of marketing, our strategy is very clear. I don't even call that marketing, because we're just focusing on people who understand the importance of this.
Yes, ma'am. It was amazing to know that. And as it's mentioned, you're the thinker in chief for the firm. So, what do you love the most about being a part of kidspreneurship?
I think the fact that I get to wear different hats during the day is something that fascinates me. So, it's not just one single thing, but I move my, the entire day is either centered around creating content, or, centered around creating, I was just before the call, I was in a call where we were discussing, one brochure. Then it's about also, creating a lot of videos. It's also about, ensuring that there's a lot of automation in process. So I think I get to experience a lot of things, which, I feel that being in a corporate world, when I was there, I was just focused on one singular task.
Right, ma'am.
And beyond a point, that becomes boring. I mean, the kind of personality I have, I love multitasking. I love, going from thinking about content to thinking about, say, a maker space that we're putting up at schools. Then, going and having a discussion with, say, the tech team, the technology team that we have, to seeing how the platform is helping students, trainers, as well as the schools. So I think what I enjoy most, to your point, is the fact that I get to wear different hats in a single day, and that's quite interesting for me.
Yes, ma'am, that must be the best aspect of it. So, well, you mentioned about multitasking as the thinker in chief. So, do you think it is important that we are a multitasker in order to become an entrepreneur, or will it work without being a multitasker? Because many people aren't really good multitaskers.
you know, uh, well, I don't think that you need to be a multitasker necessarily to become an entrepreneur. You should, at heart, be a problem solver. Not everybody is great at multitasking. Some people like to focus, and that's also a very good strategy. Like I said, to each their own. And certain things work for some people, and certain things don't work for some people. So there is no rule as such that to be an entrepreneur you need to be a multitasker. uh, but yeah, I personally enjoy that. But yeah, I think, like I said, to each their own. People, there are, I know of people who don't multitask. They come from a technology background, they're really good with it, and they go deep within it. Of course, being an entrepreneur, what you definitely need to know is what are the various functions in your organization. What is the marketing team doing, or what is the sales team doing, or what's happening in your content, if that is part of your business. But at the same time, you really don't need to do it all by yourself or even have the know-how of it. You can hire great people. So I think it's not a mandate for sure.
So, in some sense, you just need to have an idea about what's going on.
Correct. Yes, you need to know. That's something that one definitely needs to know what's happening, because otherwise, you need to understand how. Because all functions are interconnected.
Right,
Uh,
ma'am.
so yeah, you definitely need to know, but you definitely don't need to be actively involved or do things by yourself.
Absolutely, ma'am. So, moving on to our next question. Whenever we ponder upon entrepreneurship, we usually think about setting up a business. But that is not true. Entrepreneurship can help us in daily lives. And what should be the key out of it is to build an entrepreneurial mindset, because it can simply get us anywhere in life. So, ma'am, how can one develop such a mindset?
That's you've asked it very simply. We've put together some 40 modules to answer your question. But if you ask me, if I have to kind of summarize that,
In other words,
yeah, you have to summarize everything in a few words, then I would say that, have a very problem solving first attitude, right? And when I say that, I mean that anything that, and this is something that I have a 5-year-old son, okay? I have taught him to handle problems that he faces at school, at home, or anywhere else using
yes,
the using a design thinking approach. Okay. So, for example, he came to me yesterday and he said that somebody is very upset with him. So my
yeah,
first question was, so why do you think they're upset with you, and how does it make them feel? That because you were mean to them. So he said, yeah, I'm sure they must be feeling angry. Then I was like, then tell me what exactly is the problem. So he defined the problem for me, saying, listen, I did this, which is why they got angry, and now so and so is not talking to me. I said, okay, now you have got the problem right, which is you've defined it well. Now tell me, what are the three alternates that you have? So he said, maybe I can go and say sorry, or what, maybe I will do this, or maybe I'll do this. So I said,
right.
okay, which one do you want to try with first? And he said, let me try with the second option. I think that will work. So then he was basically going to prototype that. So he went and he said, you know what, it worked. So instead of really, like, even for simple things in life, if you have that problem solving attitude, I think uh, half the battle is won. And if
Yes,
you don't see problems as problems but as an opportunity to really think and really kind of create, so these are, to me, some of the cornerstones of an entrepreneurial mindset.
yes, ma'am. So, like, what this mindset is all about, like, rather than cribbing about the problem, you find different solutions of solving the same problem. So
Correct.
in case, like, you learn that problems are not so big, but we have bigger solutions to smaller problems. So, well,
Correct.
moving on to our next question. Well, we've heard a lot about this, that confidence and self belief are the most vital qualities to be looked out for in an entrepreneur. But many of us believe that confidence is inbuilt and cannot be gained as we grow. What do you have to say about that, ma'am? And do you think that confidence can be nurtured with age?
100%. I think there is nothing that cannot be nurtured with age. I've had parents come and tell me that, oh, my child doesn't have any leadership quality. And I think you're born with leadership qualities. You are a leader, you're not a leader, you're a follower, right? So you're either in one of the categories. And that's absolutely not true. I think that all these traits, including how you think, everything can be nurtured. You just need to have the right program, right blueprint, right guidance. Something as simple as what one can do with their very little kids. I'm not even talking about the 8 to 14-year-olds that we kind of train in our program, but even the younger kids, you can give them so much confidence by really simple acts like giving them, appreciating them. And no, I'm not saying appreciate, make them slaves of appreciation, because people also go to the other extreme. But
Right.
in very simple ways, you can ensure that your child becomes more and more and more confident. And then, of course, there are very formal programs that help child gain confidence. Public speaking. In our program, our focus is different ways of effectively communicating, gaining that confidence. And I think it's all about kind of practicing that over and over again. So one thing is, one can tell you the 10th step to create your own, to feel confident. But, and this is something that we believe in, for everything that we do in our program, we don't say that one size fits all. I will never tell you that, Anvesha, these are the 10 things that you need to do to gain confidence, right? I
Yes.
will expose you to all these 10 things. Now you create your own confidence plan, which means you'll tell me that, what, out of these 10, these 3 tools work for me very well. So I'm going to use these. Whereas somebody else, if there is Unnati who's looking at the same, 10 different tools of how to kind of feel confident, she may have a very different set of choice altogether, that there are 3 other tools that work better for her. So one of the
Right.
tools that we have in our program is a Buster Booster voice, right?
Right.
Now, likewise, there are multiple things. So one should be able to work with these things, practice them, understand which one works. I have a very different technique before I go onto a stage. Whereas my co-founder Tanya, she has a very different technique, right? So everybody is different. Everybody's way of processing and, feeling confident is different. So I think we should allow, it's because we are so used to of following that 1 + 1 is always 2, right? And that's what we've been taught, there is only one right answer. But in reality, there are different ways and different techniques, and everybody should have their own confidence plan, or anything for that matter, a plan for
What
them to
suits?
be able to achieve anything.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. We should always do what suits us. So,
Exactly.
thank you so much for your time, ma'am. And now I will invite Unnati, ma'am, to ask a few questions.
So, my first question to you is we all know that you work for the science of happiness too. We would like to know that what zinged your mind when you thought of joining the mission? What is happiness education and what actually is happiness to you, ma'am?
What is happiness to me? Again, happiness to me is that's like probably something that I haven't thought of, but I think it's a state of mind, quite honestly. And I can feel happy without a reason, or there could be multiple reasons because of which I'm feeling happy. So it is a state of mind, according to me. And yeah, I think a lot of and in fact, very interestingly, we have this whole thing of what is your happiness equation, right? So for some people, it is travel, it is food, it is, what makes them happy, really. But ultimately, what you achieve is a state of mind, and it could be due to so many different reasons. And if one is able to identify that and put a finger on it, saying this is what makes me happy, I think nothing like it. So you know your own happiness equation. So, to Anvesha's previous question of confidence, and like I said, everybody has their own confidence plan. I feel everybody should have their own happiness equation as well. That what makes me happy. So yeah, it's a state of mind, but to achieve that state of mind, you should have your own plan and a formula, so to say.
Beautifully answered, ma'am. Um, the second question I have in my mind is I think our audience would love to know about your current goals or long term goals to be achieved. And as we all pre plan things for ourselves, our government does that too. So, ma'am, where do you see yourself in the coming 5 years?
Well, I think 5 years has now become a little bit of a cliche, because everybody is now focusing, and including me, of course, there are long-term goals as well, like 5 years. But I think one needs to break down those long-term goals into very short-term goals, which are achievable. You can measure them immediately, because I think we're living in times, fortunately or unfortunately, that we don't have the luxury to think 5 years down the line. You don't know what technology is going to hit you. You don't know what is going to happen. But so I focus more on short-term goals. And when I say short-term goals, when it comes to work, I think the goals are very clear: to be able to work with as many schools as possible and impact as many lives as possible in a very, very positive way. And yeah, I think as far as personal goals are concerned, I think in fact, I do this goal setting every year. At the beginning of the year, I have this whole vision board that I create, and I cover all aspects of my life in that vision board, including, places I'd love to travel, health wise, what do I want to achieve. So I bucket it in various categories, and then I strive for it. And I kind of, that vision board allows me to visualize my goals, because visualizing is such an important technique. It's almost like I tell this to other people, that it works like magic. So yeah, I think lots of personal goals and professional goal is quite mission oriented, which is focusing on impacting as many lives as possible.
So being in present, living in present, making present goals rather than focusing on futuristic goals or long-term goals is what we have to do nowadays. Right, ma'am?
And you know what? Again, I don't believe in giving out prescriptions, because I think everybody should have their own way of creating their goals. Some like to make it like, I want to live for today. I am not the kind of person who would say I'll live for today and kal jo hoga dekha jayega. But I like to make goals, which is why I said that I do make goals at the beginning of the year, and I do track them through the year. I do see that how much I have achieved, what do I need to do in order to achieve. So that way I plan quite a lot, but I don't plan 5 years, right? I plan like a year. Maybe I can have like a vision board for that. Yeah, not the kind of person who would say let's live in the present. So not either extremes, I would say. I'm somewhere in between. I make short-term goals and I try and fulfill those short-term goals.
Very good, ma'am. This is very nice. I have a last question for you. So, Swati, ma'am, my last question to you is how would you like to motivate youngsters and young adults, our future generation?
I think you guys inspire us a lot. It's the other way around, in fact. I don't think I need to inspire the youngsters. Youngsters inspire me. I mean, every single day in a classroom, and we conduct lots of camps across different schools, stories of resilience, stories of how they did not have an idea of what they're going to work on, and then suddenly there was a aha moment, and then they worked on something and came up. So those are the kind of stories that inspire me. So I think it's always the other way around. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. Imagine you guys doing this podcast. I'm so inspired by you, and I'm thinking, why are we not doing a podcast for Kidspreneurship? So I always get inspired by youngsters around me.
I would rather say it's always a give and take process. We learn from you, you learn from us. It's beautiful. It's beautiful learning from each other. So thank you so much, ma'am. You are such a genuine person working for such a sustainable cause. Thank you for being you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Unnati. Thank you, Anvesha. I loved this conversation and think the questions were very thought through, and I enjoyed, kind of having a conversation. I didn't look at it as a Q&A, but more of a conversation. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Unnati ma'am. And thank you, Swati ma'am, for being here with us today. It was wonderful to listen to your experiences and learnings. And there was also a lot to learn, and there is now a lot more to reinforce. So, we learned that entrepreneurship is not business, it is a mindset of problem solving, logical reasoning, and quick thinking. And with that, we come to the end of our podcast. Comment below and let us know if you liked our podcast. If you want to be a part of similar podcasts, join us. We hope to meet you soon again.
We are here at my good school. Things here are so cool. Together we learn, together we create, together we meditate. Everyone is welcome. Teachers here are awesome. We learn good values, we learn many skills. We soar above the hills. Let's shout it out, hey, let's all be proud, hey, hats off to my good school. Just what we need, hey, for us to succeed, hey, are all here in my good school.